When McLaren became the first Formula 1 team to reveal its 2021 car and run it on track, it went to surprising lengths to hide some of its new ideas. The diffuser was blocked out on its launch images, which also featured old barge boards, while the team even edited a picture from its Silverstone shakedown to hide its real barge board arrangement completely. We're not angry at McLaren for this, or even disappointed. Going to such lengths to disguise parts of a new car adds a fascinating element to launch season and makes up a little for how disappointingly similar the MCL 35M appeared to be to its predecessor. Before we explain what McLaren's done, we'd like to thank you for being here and ask you to further support our channel by subscribing if you haven't already done so, and give this video a like if you enjoy it. Now let's look at what McLaren's hidden and why, plus some other things we've learned from its head start on F1 2021. The version of McLaren's MCL 35M that made its on-track debut at Silverstone last week was a little different to the one revealed at the launch. Most noticeable was the barge board package. McLaren's photo and videos from the test didn't offer too much detail, and the one time that part of the car was clearly photographed, they just blacked it out entirely before releasing the image. However, we were able to take what detail was in the released imagery and use that to enhance and remodel an image of last year's barge boards to give a clearer picture of how the 2021 structure appears to be shaped. The new, less complicated outer section of the floor in 2021 will lead to the teams focusing on other areas that can still give decent aerodynamic returns. Over the last few years, the barge board area has been designed hand in hand with making the rear section of the underfloor work harder. The vortex set up by some of the barge board components acted as a skirt, helping to seal the underfloor and making the diffuser much more effective. Now, most but not all of that has gone, so a change of focus on how the barge boards operate independently will be a big part of every team's development program. McLaren has now got a twin delta wing mounted off the side of the chassis, shown here in red. These are in effect upside down wings and work in conjunction with the front suspension member to help realign the airflow coming off the front wing flaps. This helps reduce the potential lift created as the airflow would accelerate over the top of the leading edge of the side pod. This second delta wing also has some vertical upper surface turning vanes. These will help turn the airflow outwards into the Coke bottle section and will make the delta wing work harder than it would do without them. The front corner of the underfloor works as a downforce producing component in its own right. The turned up outer section of the floor works like a mini diffuser, pulling air through from the leading edge of the floor. The regulation change that removes the Louvres from the outer part of the floor in front of the rear wheels means there will be more leakage under that section of the floor, reducing the diffuser's effect on the underfloor's overall performance. To counteract this, McLaren has increased the amount of horizontal louvres on this year's car, shown here in magenta. Last year in this area, there were 3 interlinked vertical vanes to control the turbulent wake off the front tyre. Now, shown here in yellow, McLaren has 2 on this year's car, with the centre one replaced with a horizontal louvre panel. These louvres will make the front corner of the underfloor work harder by pulling more airflow through that section of the floor. With less mass flow being available to be pulled through by the diffuser all the way from the front of the car, this will help the rear of the underfloor. Most of the other turning vanes are also a little larger or more aggressive. McLaren has also added a couple of standalone vertical vanes at the trailing edge of the outboard end of the lower delta wing section, seen here in blue. Basically, the leakage under the floor sides in front of the rear tyre will still be the same, but as the area of the floor is reduced, the diffuser has less airflow to work with. The new developments to the barge boards focus on making the front section of the floor scavenge more of the airflow from underneath the chassis, and this is an area that will be in constant development as the season progresses. McLaren is also still in the process of finalising its aerodynamic specification for the season opening Bahrain Grand Prix at the end of March, so there is scope for more changes in this area before the first race of the season. The front wing we've seen on the car so far is the same as the one raced at the end of last season, meaning this could be changed perhaps as early as pre-season testing. A major and more obvious change is hidden by the bodywork at the back of the car, McLaren's new Mercedes engine. Its reunion with Mercedes brings the team full circle after its ill-fated decision to abandon its long-time partner for Honda back in 2015, then needing 3 years with Renault almost as a stopgap solution. McLaren famously struggled with Honda reliability, and while it never suffered so dramatically with Renault, it has enjoyed a couple of small wins in its preparations with Mercedes that show how far McLaren has come in the last few years. According to new signing Daniel Ricciardo, McLaren's engine fire-up was a day early, and the first shakedown run at Silverstone went smoothly. Mercedes admitted to having some engine issues in the off-season, but McLaren seemed unperturbed by this when we spoke to the team last week. Full-scale dyno running had been cleared without any issues, and it seems the shakedown reaffirmed that this reunion is off to the strongest possible start. Committing to its 2 filming days so early shows how much McLaren felt it would be able to get out of 200 kilometres of running at Silverstone. It had plenty to check in terms of engine installation, while the first on-track impressions of the new car will also be valuable, despite the days being spent in the cold and rain. In addition to the early correlation work for the various aerodynamic changes, the MCL 35M has a longer wheelbase thanks to the new Mercedes engine, and this was the first opportunity to run this extended car on track. We also saw glimpses of practice starts and pit stops for both drivers, and Ricciardo familiarising himself with the first live switch changes on his steering wheel. That's all part of what he calls making sure he lines up on the grid for the season opener in Bahrain without any trace of panic, and fully comfortable in whatever situation he faces. By the time that happens, McLaren's new F1 car will have been fully on display for some time, so make sure you're subscribed to our channel as we uncover more of the MCL 35M's secrets and those of the other 2021 cars as well.